Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Gaura Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai. So welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We're continuing with Canto 3, Chapter 12, entitled Creation of the Kumaras and Others. And we'll be covering texts 4 to 20 today. The focus verse will be 11. But before we get to that, let's read some of the translations. So yesterday we saw how Brahma, after meditating for long periods of time, understanding what his mission was, meditating again for long periods of time, getting the mercy of the Lord, the empowerment of the Lord to create, he started his task of creation. And the first thing that he created was what? Does anyone remember? Ignorance, yeah, the 5 forms of ignorance, like self-deception, the sense of death, anger after frustration, the sense of false ownership, illusory bodily conception, and forgetfulness of one's real identity. So he created the conditions for the living entities to exist within the material world. That's what this world is all about. It is the place of ignorance where souls come to forget Krishna. And so Brahma created all the conditions by which that could happen effectively, according to the soul's desires and misuse of their independence. So that's our situation, that's the nature of the world that we're living in. But Brahma wasn't happy with it. And so what did he do? Pray. Yeah, he again went into a deep state of meditation and prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after that, he got re-enthused to start again. So now Brahma is again starting the next phase of creation, which is now that the material world is all set up, all the structures are there, the overall mood of the material world, ignorance, is there. So now it's ready to fill up with living entities. So for that, he needs help. He needs children, and he needs he needs a lot of children. He needs the children to have a lot of grandchildren because they need to populate the world. So, text 4. Someone want to read? Do we have a mic?
In the beginning, Brahma created 4 great sages named Sankhya, Sananda, Satna, and Satkamana. All of them were unwilling to adopt materialistic activities because they were highly elevated due to their semen flowing upwards.
Next. Go ahead.
Brahma spoke to his sons after generating them. My dear sons, he said, now generate progeny. But due to their being attached to Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they aimed at liberation, and therefore they expressed their unwillingness.
Right, so he had these 4 sons, and he was thinking, wow, nice, beautiful boys, they're very enlightened, they're going to have nice children, and they're going to help me with the work of creation. So he asked them, have children. And they're like, sorry, we're not doing it. We're just not going to go there. So that's actually the one instruction that the disciple can refuse to obey when the spiritual master gives, or if the son, if his father tells him, is to get married. So if the guru or the father tells the son or the disciple to get married, that's the one instruction they can disobey and they don't get a reaction for. So the Kumaras took full advantage and they're like, no. It's not only are we not going to get married and have children, but we're not even going to grow up. Because as soon as you grow up, then sex desire kicks in, and maybe the pushings of the senses will urge us in that direction, and we just don't want to have that, take that chance. So the 4 Kumaras, even though they're the original, Brahma's the first created being, and then they're the oldest descendants of Brahma, but they always appear like 5-year-old boys. They never age past that by their desire. Okay, so now let's see what happens when Brahma's sons disobeyed him. Text 6.
On the refusal of the sons to obey the order of their father, there was much anger generated in the mind of Brahma, which he tried to control and not express.
All right, so Brahma got really angry because he's like, I have a task here, it's already difficult, I need help, there's no one else to help me, my sons are not going to help me, this is unreasonable. Don't they understand my situation? How could they disappoint me in this moment of need? So he becomes very angry with them.
Although he tried to curb his anger, it came out between his eyebrows, and a child mixture blue and red was immediately generated.
Right, so Brahma was thinking, oh my God, I'm feeling so angry angry. This is not, I'm Brahma. I can't just get angry like a low-class person or something that just gets, upset about things easily. So he tried to put his anger down. He tried to keep it in check. But that anger had already started. And the thing with anger, it's like a fire, As soon as it starts, it burns, and it burns everything in its path. So that anger, although he tried to extinguish it, but it just came out in another way. Now that's what happens whenever we have strong emotions and we repress them. People may not see that we're having that emotion, but it'll manifest some way, especially if it's a negative emotion, it will come out in a different way within the body and often create disease and things like that. So in this case, what happened to Brahma's anger was that it produced a child. It came out with a child, which was the incarnation of anger. And that child was of mixed blue and red. Blue signifies the mode of ignorance, and red signifies the mode of passion. So the child was an embodiment of the modes of passion and ignorance, and the incarnation of Lord Brahma's anger. All right, so let's see what this child does.
After his birth, he began to cry, "O Destiny Maker, Teacher of the universe, kindly designate my name and place."
Okay.
The all-powerful Brahma, who was born from the lotus flower, pacified the boy with gentle words, accepting his request, and said, "Do not cry. I shall certainly do as you desire."
Thereafter Brahma said, "O chief of the demigods, you shall be called by the name Rudra by all people because you have so anxiously cried."
So the word Rudra means crying or roaring. So yeah, his cry wasn't just like a normal baby's cry because, he was the embodiment of anger. So it was more like a roar that kind of like sent, like a war cry. That's what it was. It was like a war cry that sent everybody flying in all directions. Okay?
My dear boy, I have already selected the following places for your residence: the heart, the senses, the air of life, the sky, the air, the fire, the water, the earth, the sun, the moon, and austerity.
Okay, we're going to get back to that. We can maybe skip a few verses. The next verses are different names of this boy Rudra, and also the different wives that Brahma created for him. So he has 11 names and he has 11 wives. And so again, Brahma, his mission was to populate the universe. So now he's like, okay, the 4 Kumaras let me down, but I'm counting on you now to have children. Here are 11 wives. With them, please have children. So, and he's given places for him to reside. We'll get back to that. And he says, now increase the population on a large scale. So actually, they did that. Rudra was like, okay. So then they had many, many children. It says in the Bhagavatam, unlimited children. But the problem was that those sons and grandsons of Rudra had the same qualities as Rudra. In other words, they were full of anger and aggression and actually violence, because the Rudra principle, which Srila Prabhupada talks about in the purports here, is the combination of passion and ignorance. So passion is like this intense, uncontrolled energy, and ignorance is the energy of destruction. So the combination of the two is very dangerous, right? You have this uncontrolled energy and a destructive tendency. So what these children of Rudra did was they just started terrorizing the universe. They just started destroying everything that they, devouring and burning up everything that they saw. And so Brahma was like, whoa, this is even worse, like the Kumaras, okay, they didn't have kids, so it was, just kind of like a neutral situation. But now we have all these kids and grandkids who are destroying. I'm just trying to create the universe. I haven't even finished creating it, and they're already destroying whatever I've done. So it was a big, huge problem for Brahma. And not only were they destroying the creation, but they were also attacking even Brahma. So Brahma was not only frustrated, but he was also afraid. He was in fear of his own life, because there were many, many of these children, and they were very powerful and very aggressive, and they were attacking Lord Brahma. So let's just skip over to text 17, and someone please read that.
Brahma told Rudra, O best among the demigods, there is no need for you to generate living entities of this nature. They have begun to devastate everything on all sides with the fiery flames from their eyes, and they have even attacked me.
Yeah, so now he's thinking quick on his feet. Can you imagine? It's like chaos all around him. There's screaming and roaring and burning, and he's also being attacked, and he has to solve the problem. So thank God Brahma is very intelligent, so he knows what to do, because he's already had a little experience with life, and what worked for him is the same thing that he's going to tell Rudra to do now. So what has been the method that's worked for Brahma in all of his crises? Meditation. So that's what he's going to tell Rudra to do. Okay, someone read text 18.
My dear son, you had better situate yourself in penance, which is auspicious for all living entities and which will bring all benediction upon you. By penance only shall you be able to create the universe as it was before.
19.
By penance only can one even approach the personality of Godhead, who is within the heart of every living entity, and at the same time beyond the reach of all senses.
Yes, so Brahma here, he's speaking from experience. He's saying that by penance you shall be able to create the universe as it was before. So he has that experience that by his penance, by his meditation, he was able to start creating the universe. And then next verse he says, by penance only one can even approach the personality of Godhead. So he also had that experience that by his penances he was able to see the Lord. So he's giving some encouragement here for Rudra that this is going to be really good for you, it's going to be good for the universe, it's going to be good for everybody. Just do penance. And the penance he was talking about was meditation. So, okay, then our last verse, text 20.
Sri Maitreya said, thus Rudra, having been ordered by Brahma, circumambulated his father, the master of the Vedas. Addressing him with words of assent, he entered the forest to perform austere penances.
So we see that, so Rudra obeyed. He was very obedient. He did what Brahma said in all circumstances. So that saved the situation. And Prabhupada talks about how that whenever we see pictures of Rudra, or this form of Lord Shiva, he's always in meditation. You often see pictures of Lord Shiva, because Rudra is a manifestation of Lord Shiva. They're non-different. But whereas Lord Shiva is kind and auspicious, he exhibits those features of his personality, Rudra is the side of Lord Shiva that's angry. It's the angry form of Lord Shiva. But they look the same. So if you see pictures of Lord Shiva, he's often depicted like in the Himalayas. He's sitting on a mountainside, and he's, with his eyes half closed, and his moon on his head, and his hair like that, and his garland of skulls, and features of Lord Shiva, but he has his eyes half closed, and he's in meditation. And even a lot of followers of Lord Shiva, if you go to like Rishikesh, Haridwar, those areas, the Shivites in those areas, that's what they do. They engage in austerities and particularly meditation, following in the footsteps of Lord Shiva. So, and because Lord Shiva was the ruler, was the leader of all of his dynasty, all of his sons and grandsons, then when he went into meditation, they followed in his footsteps, and they all performed meditation, like as if they like disciples of Lord Shiva. So everything became peaceful, and now Lord Brahma could go back into the business of creation, having solved that problem, and that the next section is the next phase of creation of the sages. So let's go back now to text 11. I'm going to read that purport. I'll just read the translation again, and someone get ready to read the purport. My dear boy, I have already selected the following places for your residence: the heart, the senses, the air of life, the sky, the air, the fire, the water, the earth, the sun, the moon, and austerity. So these are places where anger resides. So this is instructive for us, because we often have to worry about anger. We have to deal with anger in our own lives when we become angry and when others become angry with us. So it's important to understand where anger resides and how it manifests in different ways throughout the universe. So, someone please read the purport.
Yeah. Purport. The creation of Rudra from between the eyebrow of Brahma as a result of his anger, generated from the mode of passion, partly touched by ignorance, is very significant. In the Bhagavad Gita 3.37, the principle of Rudra is described. Krodha, anger, is the product of karma, lust. Kam, lust, which is the result of the mode of passion. When lust is hankering or unsatisfied, the element of Krodha appears, which is the formidable enemy of the conditioned soul. This most sinful and inimical passion is represented by ahankara, or the false egocentric attitude of thinking oneself to be all in all. Such an egocentric attitude on the part of conditioned soul, who is completely under the control of material nature, is described in Bhagavad Gita as foolish. The egocentric attitude is the manifestation of the Rudra principle in the heart, wherein the Krodha, anger, is generated. This anger develops in the heart and is further manifested through the various senses, like the eyes, hands, legs. When a man is angry, he expresses such anger with red-hot eyes, and sometimes make a display of clenching his fist or kicking his legs. This exhibition of the Rudra principle is the proof of Rudra's presence in such places. When a man is angry, he breathes very rapidly, and thus Rudra is represented in the air of life or in the activities of breathing. When the sky is overcast with the dense cloud and roar in anger, and when the wind blows very fiercely, the Rudra principle is manifested. And so also when the sea water is infuriated by the wind, it appears in a gloomy feature of Rudra, which is very fearful to the common man. When fire is ablaze, we can also experience the presence of Rudra. And when there is an indentation over the earth, we can understand that this is also the representation of Rudra. There are many earthly creatures who can constantly represent the Rudra element. The snake, tiger, and lion are always representation of Rudra. Sometimes because of the extreme heat of the sun, there are cases of heat stroke. And due to the extreme coldness created by the moon, there are cases of collapse. There are many sages empowered with the influence of the austerity in many yogis, philosophers, and renouncers who sometimes exhibit their acquired power under the influence of the Rudra principle of anger and passion. The great yogi Durvasa, under the influence of this Rudra principle, picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambrish, and Brahmana boy exhibited a Rudra principle by cursing the great king Parikshit. When the Rudra principle is exhibited by the person who are not engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the angry person falls down from the peak of his improved position. This is confirmed as follows.
I can say it if you want.
Yes.
Yenyera vindaksha vimukta maninas tvayasta bhavada vishuddha buddhaya aruhya kritrena param param tata patantyado nadvita yushmadangraya. The most lamentable fall down of the impersonalist is due to his false and unreasonable claim of being one with the Supreme. That was Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32. All right, thank you. So, It's interesting here that there's this list of places where the Rudra principle, or anger, or the mode of passion mixed with ignorance resides within the universe. So first, there are the places within our own body, which is the heart and the senses. So anger resides in the heart, and Prabhupada explains here in the purport that it comes from this egocentric attitude on the part of the conditioned soul, by which we think ourselves to be all in all. So as soon as we think that we are important and, should be the center of attention and everything revolves around me, then that's the root of this whole Rudra principle within the heart. And from that misconception about ourselves, then we become easily angry. Because if I think that I'm wonderful, and somebody else doesn't think I'm so wonderful and speaks to me in ways that are not as reverent as I think they should be, then we're going to become angry. Or just if things don't go my way, I want things to go a certain way, and of course because I'm the center of the universe and I'm the Lord of all I survey, then they should go my way. And so there's something very wrong with the fact that they don't go my way, and that makes me angry. Yeah, Anna. Sure.
Hare Krishna. So since it's saying that, these are the places for his residence, is this anger, is this passion mixed with ignorance always within us then? It's always in the heart, it's always in the senses, and sometimes it becomes active, or we allow it to take over us, or?
Yeah, so anger is within us. It's not necessarily within everyone, right? It's within people, those who have this egocentric attitude, who basically identify with a false ego. Those who are free from false ego, they don't have, anger doesn't arise. They can just be peaceful, even in provoking circumstances. But yeah, it's an important point that the point being made here is that for somebody who, has misconceptions about themselves, which is most of us, because we just heard that that's how Brahma created the universe. The first thing that he created was this misconception of the self. And so everybody here has that tendency, because that's the situation that we're born into. And therefore we have anger, or the potential for anger within us. And all it takes is something to just spark it, right, to trigger it. So, but it's important to know for ourselves that, sometimes we say, oh, you made me angry, or that makes me angry. But it's not that the external situation or the person, what they said or what they did that made us angry. We already have anger. It's just that they are provoking it. They're making it come out. So we can't really blame others for our anger. It's something it's with us. The anger is with us. We have to take full responsibility for our own anger. So, yeah. Because sometimes you say, oh, if you will just stop doing that, then I don't have to feel anger. Or if this situation would just change, then I won't feel anger. No, the anger is there, and you need to get it out. We need to remove the anger, not just try to, adjust everything and make everybody shut up and be quiet and do things our way so that we need to get the anger out of there. Yeah.
I saw this quote that once said, it said something like, to fix your inner world, you can't fix the outer world, you have to fix the inner world. Problems aren't outside, it's you that's reacting to it. So you could easily not easily, but heal yourself. That way you won't get angry and react to everything outside of the world.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, the problem is usually within, right? Because it's not that, because you see that there can be 5 people in the same situation. One is angry, one is sad, one is frustrated, and one is neutral, and one is happy. They're not all reacting in the same way. So why? Because the internal environment is different. So how they process the situation is different. One might be interpreting it as, I wanted it to be a certain way and it's not. The other one might be interpreting it that, oh, this always happens, so I'm so unfortunate. And the other person might be interpreting it that it's just like, whatever, who cares? And then another person is like, oh, Krishna very kindly arranged this situation for my purification, for my growth, for me to, be more sober or something. So they're happy. So it just depends on how we respond to the situation. Yeah. But of course, a lot of how we respond to it depends on our internal situation. That if we have a lot of anger within us, if we very strongly identify with the body, with our position, with our misconception of ourselves, our false ego, then we get these more negative emotions. And then, so that's in the heart. And then that manifests in the senses. So when anger arises in the heart, then it manifests, right? Your eyes become red, your fist, Prabhupada, clenched fist, kicking of the legs. Also, sometimes your upper lip will tremble. Experience that, right? And then the other thing is the air of life. So that's the breath. You start breathing heavily or rapidly. So those are all the ways that it manifests within our body. And then this is interesting how this Rudra principle, or anger, or passion and ignorance, also resides within different, within the world, in different elements and things. So the sky, how does it manifest in the sky? Prabhupada says, like thunder and lightning, when the sky roars with anger. And then the air, when the wind is blowing very fiercely, this howling wind before a storm. Then fire, that fire blazes and it just burns things, it's destructive. So just like the Rudras, right, when they were born, the children of Rudra, they just started destroying everything and burning everything to ashes. So all these things are destructive. So anger, when it comes within our heart and manifests through our senses, it's destructive, right? We want to kick something, we want to hit something, we want to throw something, we want to smash something, right? It's destructive. And the same way, when there's a terrible storm and fierce winds, like a tornado or a hurricane, it's destructive. Fire is destructive. And water, how does it manifest in water? He says when the ocean becomes very churned up with big waves, like tidal waves or a tsunami, then it becomes angry and destructive. And then for the earth, he talks about animals, earthly animals like snakes, tigers, and lions that are, fierce by nature, that are envious, that attack you with passion and will destroy other creatures. The sun, when it gets very hot and it scorches the earth, it causes people to have heat stroke. And then the moon, because of its cooling, sometimes it becomes too cold and people collapse, they get hypothermia like that, so it can also become destructive. And then the last one here is interesting, it's austerity. And this is, the reason that I found this very interesting was because it's the same thing, this tapa, the same thing that Lord Shiva prescribed to the Rudras, and which he did himself to solve all his problems, but specifically the way he quelled the anger of the Rudras was to get them to do tapa, to get them to do austerity. But Lord Brahma is saying that anger actually resides within austerity. So how is something which is a manifestation of the Rudra principle going to eradicate the Rudra principle? It seems contradictory, right? Yeah?
But it says moon and austerity.
It says what?
It says moon and austerity, not like moon, austerity. So is it saying both?
Oh, it's just it's two different things. The moon is one thing and austerity is another. Yeah. Sometimes if the word and is there, you don't necessarily need a comma, depending on which style of punctuation you're using. Yeah. Just hold on and get the mic first, because even I can barely hear you.
Oh, like an example that comes to my mind is the demon Hiranyakashipu.
Yeah.
He took austerities, but for what?
Good, yeah, that's a good example. He did like long austerities, very severe austerities, but those austerities just made him more angry, right? And yeah, we were talking about how anger becomes destructive. So when Hiranyakashipu finished his austerities, the first thing he did was started to, destroy. He went into battle against the demigods, and there was a lot of destruction. There was a lot of war and fear and violence. And in all of these cases where someone's performing austerities for the wrong reason, they end up being destroyed themselves. So anger is externally destructive, and it's also internally destructive. In other words, our anger destroys ourselves. That's how we destroy ourselves. And if you think about it, when we get angry, we say things that we regret later. We do things that we regret later, and so we destroy our reputation. Especially if somebody's a leader and they just fly off the handle and start blasting people and throwing things around. It's like, you're finished, You're just out of there. You lost your position. You're totally humiliated and dishonored and demoted. So, anger destroys. If you're a person, let's say you're a grihasta, and you get angry with your family, and you become violent with your family, and you beat your spouse, and you beat the kids, and you kick the dog, all these things, your family life is over. That's it. Your family is no longer going to be able to relate to you in the same way that they did before. You're not going to be able to repair that, and you might end up without a family, just alone with your anger, feeling even more angry. So, anger is very destructive. It destroys things externally. It destroys ourselves. And that's the point that Prabhupada is making here in the purport. He gives the example of Durvasa Muni. So Durvasa, he's this great Muni, he's very austere, and he got a lot of powers from his austerities, but because he wasn't a devotee, he was a sage, but he wasn't a bhakta. He wasn't actually a devotee of Krishna. So he got angry once with Maharaj Ambarish, because Ambarish took some water before feeding him and all of his crew, and he got very upset with that. So he pulled a hair out of his head and he threw it on the ground with a mantra, chanting a mantra that this act would create a demon that would kill Ambarish Maharaj. So this fiery demon, which was born out of Durvasa Muni's anger and his mystic potencies, started going for Maharaj Ambarish, but immediately the Sudarshan Chakra of Lord Vishnu came and killed that demon. But then after that, the Sudarshan Chakra of Lord Vishnu started chasing Durvasa Muni, and it chased him all over the universe, and he couldn't get any protection from it, and he was thinking, I'm going to die any minute. He went to Lord Brahma couldn't help him. He went to Lord Shiva couldn't help him. He went to Lord Vishnu even said, look, it's my chakra, but it's acting because of what you did, and so I can't stop it until you rectify what you did. So you need to go back to Maharaj Ambarish and offer your dandavat, obeisances, and beg his forgiveness, and then the chakra will be peaceful. So Durvasa Muni had to go back and take the humble position and apologize. Of course, Ambarish is a devotee, so he immediately forgave him, and he was actually apologizing, like, I'm sorry that you were so troubled just because of me. He was so humble. Durvasa Muni almost lost his life there due to his own anger. And we see also that another example that Prabhupada gives is the cursing of the great king Parikshit. So Parikshit Maharaj was another great devotee, and he was cursed by this Brahmin boy Shringi. Shringi became angry because of the way that Parikshit treated his father, and so he cursed him to die. You all know this story by now. He cursed him to die within 7 days by being bitten by a snake bird. And so his anger caused the destruction of this great king, Parikshit, who is, he was the best king ever. He was just such a good king, ruling the world based on religious principles, devotion, performing sacrifices for the benefit of all humanity, and now he was leaving. So that was a bad thing. And not only that, but Shringi himself, his cursing of this great devotee brought about the contamination and basically the destruction of the whole Brahminical caste. That was the beginning of the corruption of the Brahmins in Kali Yuga. So after that, the Brahmins they started to lose their potency, lose their goodness, lose their knowledge, everything. So the whole Brahminical caste was destroyed by the anger of this Brahmin boy Shringi and his actions. So, anger leads to destruction. Yeah, anger leads to fall down. Prabhupada says that, but not all anger. So there are some, actually there are some appropriate manifestations of anger. Does anyone know what those are? Jose? Hanuman. Okay, Hanuman got very angry and he started setting fire to Lanka. Why was that a good thing? Pass the mic back, please.
My understanding is as for austerity, if that austerity is Krishna-centric, then it will be beneficial. If it is anything else, it will harm ourselves. Similarly, anger serving Krishna is good, like Hanumanji serving Lord Rama, and he showed his anger.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, great. Yeah, so anger, whenever anger is in the service of the Lord, when the Lord is blasphemed, right? Ravana was blaspheming Lord Ram, and Hanuman was like, I am not going to tolerate this. There are going to be consequences for blaspheming Lord Ram. So whenever the Lord is blasphemed, or whenever his pure devotee or any devotee is blasphemed, then we shouldn't tolerate that. We shouldn't tolerate blasphemy of the Lord or his devotees. If someone is like, yeah, that Nanda Braja, he's so whatever, then we should be like, wait a minute, Nanda Braja does so much service, he's really helping so many devotees, and just stop saying that. So we should get angry and put that person in their place. And so those are correct manifestations of anger. But if anger is used in anything other than the service of the Lord and the Vaishnavas, then it's going to cause fall down. Prabhupada says the angry person falls down from the peak of his improved position. And even he talks about how the impersonalists, even they go to the level of liberation, which they leave the material world and they merge into the Brahma Jyoti, Krishna's Brahman effulgence, and they think that they've attained the perfection of, the liberated state there, but they fall down because of their subtle anger or envy of the Lord. So yeah, they think that they've become one with the Supreme, but they can never become one with the Supreme. And the thought that I am equal to the Supreme, it comes out of envy, that why should anybody be superior to me? Everybody should be equal to me or lower than me. So that's their anger, to get angry that somebody is actually superior. They can't accept that someone is superior to them, and so they fall down from that position. So the only permanent position is the position of service, when we accept that, yes, the Lord is superior to me, I'm totally subordinate to the Lord, I'm very small compared to the Lord, and my role is to serve Him. And then we can actually get the highest liberation of going back home, back to Godhead, and staying there eternally. And the process for coming to that awareness and that achievement is bhakti. And the process of bhakti is also the way to get free from anger, because especially hearing and chanting. So when we're chanting, then Cheto Darpana Marjanam. It cleans the heart. It cleans the heart of all of these bad qualities like lust, anger, greed, madness, envy, illusion. And also hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, like we're all doing now. This is also a way to gradually get free from anger and all these bad qualities. Because Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu. We say that verse every morning. It literally means that all the abhadra, all the inauspicious things in our lives, all the inauspicious qualities in our hearts, like anger, are nashta, destroyed. They all get totally wiped out. So if we just keep on chanting the holy names, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, sharing the knowledge of Bhagavatam with others, sharing the holy names with others, then we will gradually get free from all these qualities. And that is our tapasya, that is our austerity. So for Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Rudra, it was meditation. So that was their tapasya, but the tapasya for this age is chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, at least 6 rounds every day, and listening to Bhagavatam class every day. And that program will free us from all these unwanted things. Yes, Jose.
So this is anger is a principle that resides in all four yugas, right?
Yeah.
And it's progressively getting like bigger or worse.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it makes me feel like anger also resides in time.
Well, time brings about changes which make anger more prominent. That's what happens. Because at the beginning of creation, there's more of a mode of goodness. Goodness is prominent in Satya Yuga. So then there's less anger, because anger is a product of the modes of passion and ignorance. That's what we're talking about. The Rudra principle is that manifestation of passion and ignorance. So as time goes by, then the mode of passion starts to gradually contaminate goodness, and then the mode of passion becomes prominent, and then as time continues to go by, then the mode of ignorance starts to, become prominent. So when we come to Kali Yuga, the modes of passion and ignorance are totally prominent. Goodness is very rare to find. There's practically there's just some slight tinge of goodness in Kali Yuga, especially towards the end of Kali Yuga. So because there's so much passion and ignorance, then there's so much anger and destruction, violence, and these lust and these things. Yeah? Okay. Gokulananda Brewer?
I was thinking about the 6 enemies, 6 anarthas that we have, all of us within us. So lust, we hear there are examples like Kubja, how she engaged lust in Krishna service, and then anger, Hanumanji, how he engaged anger in Krishna service. Then greed, Rupa Goswami says, Laulyam Ekamulya. But question is, how do we have any examples of, how illusion and envy, how it is engaged in Krishna service, and how do we do that? Engage them.
Yeah, what I've heard is that the only one that can't be engaged in Krishna's service is envy. So envy can't be engaged in Krishna's service. We have to give up envy. That's why we hear that Nirmat Saranam Satam. So this Bhagavatam is for those who are free from envy. And yeah, Krishna says, I'm speaking this Bhagavad Gita to you, Arjuna, because you are anasuyave. You're free from envy. So we need to become free from envy. Illusion, that can be engaged in Krishna's service, like Yoga Maya, right? So there's Mahamaya and Yoga Maya, and they're both Krishna's illusory energies. But like Madhya Yashoda becomes illusion, she doesn't understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She thinks he's her small son who's totally helpless, totally dependent on her. If she doesn't feed him, he's going to starve. So that's a kind of illusion that in Krishna's service. Yeah. And madness also can be engaged in Krishna's service. Unmada, that devotees, pure devotees become mad due to separation from Krishna, like that, at very advanced levels of love. Drishtaduna.
I was thinking about how it says that anger is an austerity, and you spoke a little bit on that. And then you were saying how our austerity is chanting and stuff. It made me think of this one time I was joking with my friends. I was like, yeah, I feel like ever since I started 16 rounds, I got more anarthas. And it was a joke, but also they made the point that imperfect practice of bhakti will water the weeds and will water that anger. Just the egocentric, because you're like, oh, I chant all these rounds, oh, I'm this and that. And so I'm kind of wondering, is there kind of how to not get that egocentric also with the practice of bhakti?
Yeah, we have to do it for the right reason, and we have to do it with the right attitude. So yeah, we have to do it with an attitude of service, that I'm chanting my rounds as a service to Krishna, and this is my service, and I'm chanting my rounds because I am so fallen and I really need help. It's not like, we shouldn't think that because I'm chanting 16 rounds, I'm better than everybody else who's not chanting 16 rounds, or who doesn't chant as nicely as I do, Otherwise, yeah, it's just like Krishna says that what austerities that are done for the wrong reason, which wrong reason means not to please the Lord. So even if we're doing, items of bhakti, but we're not doing them to please the Lord, we're doing them just to, promote ourselves, then that can also lead to fall down. Right, can lead to, watering the weeds instead of watering the bhakti creeper. So we have to be careful. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Your entourage Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Bol.